Welcome back to the Michigan Sports Media Network. And as always, we are joined by James Gullett today. And of course, as always, he is going to talk some Tigers for us today. However, OTAs have come, so we are going to talk about OTAs a little bit more and just what's going on with the Lions a little bit more than we have been able to in recent weeks. Thank God, because I certainly miss talking our Lions. Now, with that being said, we apologize for the delay. We had a little bit of technical difficulties. You know how that goes. Sometimes technology just doesn't like to cooperate. So, a little bit late today, but no worries. First day at 4 o'clock. Now, also, first day of football. Football has officially started for me, okay, as well as the NFL. So, with that being said, I am going to be a lot busier in this football season. So, that's why we moved to 4 p.m. We'll be 4 p.m. for every live show that we have until probably football season is over. And we'll kind of, give you guys updates on the schedule as they come because the days may change. We may add a day or two. Who knows what's going to happen in this wild, wild world, all right? Who knows if we'll even be here in a week? I don't know, all right? So, with that, not us, I mean the world, the whole earth, everyone on it. Who knows what's going on with how crazy fucking life is right now. So, with that being said, I just want to say shout out to the Loynorix Knights where I coach. We're going to kick some ass this year. We came in second in the Western Michigan 7-on-7 tournament. So we're going to see what's going on. Last year, we won more games than we lost for the first time in 30 years. So the trajectory is up and it's going to keep on going. So I'm excited for practice to start and football season to get underway. Now, without further ado, let's talk about some football you actually give a fuck about. All right. So the Lions OTAs are here, and well, it's that season. So far with OTAs, there is a lot to talk about. Okay, so we're just gonna kind of go down the list, and we're gonna go back and forth every so often. Um, so with that being said, first things first, the defense has looked really good so far. Now, remember, okay, it's OTAs. They can't hit each other. Okay. So take everything that I say with a grain of salt, especially when it comes to linemen. Okay. On either side of the ball. Wink, wink, Aiden Hutchinson. I'm just saying. All right. So with that being said, the defense is looking really good. Shepard has been doing a very good job of, getting guys where they need to be. It does seem like the offense is a little bit behind the defense, and I don't think that is, negative on the offense. I think that's a positive on the defense. So it just seemed like from everyone's reporting, it seems like the defense is just going really smooth. Everybody's getting where they need to be. Everybody's playing pretty well. And with that being said, there are a few players that are playing pretty well, specifically in the defensive back room. As we know, Terrion Arnold is not at OTAs, and Ennis Rakestraw has been taking his first team snaps, and he's been looking pretty good alongside DJ Reed at the outside corner spot. Now, that probably means he is our number one backup outside guy. I do wonder what that means for him in the slot as well, because I would like to see Rakestraw play some slot, and it sounds like they're going to have to get him on the field somehow. So we'll see how that looks, depending on what's going on there. And then another DB that's been looking pretty good is Avante Maddox, our new safety corner nickel type we got from Philadelphia. Now, he has been playing a lot more safety, which kind of, we all expected, seeing as we needed safety depth when we added him. We didn't need corner depth. So it makes a lot more sense that he's a safety nickel hybrid type of guy. But it seems like he's been playing pretty well. He's brought some, good veteran leadership into the room. So it looks like our defense as a whole and our defensive backs specifically are looking pretty good. But like I mentioned earlier, when it comes to linemen, take everything that I say with a grain of salt, because so far Hutch is looking amazing, but they're not hitting. There's no contact really right now. So at least the movement is good after coming off a big, injury the way he did with his broken leg. I mean, just to see him moving as well as he is great. Great news. So, with that being said, James, do you have anything to add to that?
I mean, you already said it, but I just wanted to touch on Rakestraw making an impact. He was my breakout candidate of the year, and we have said, take it with a grain of salt. He looked great in camp last year. He looked great in preseason last year. Then unfortunately he got hurt. But on one hand, I get when people say, "Hey, it's just OTAs. Hey, it's just this." But in the case of Rakestraw, that's all we have to judge him on. We haven't like seen him play meaningful snaps. Like I know if you look up the box score, it says he played 8 games last year, but he played like 5 to 10 snaps a game. He got the JMO treatment, just getting his feet wet. So when we have seen him in the limited role, he has looked good. I might even border on saying great. But like you said, let's get the pads on. Let's see what happens when uh, you know, a little bit more contact is there to be had. He's never been that guy to shy away from contact if you watch his college tape, but until everything's on the table and it's full contact and all that. I mean, for now, this is all we have to go on.
Yeah, and I think especially with DBs and receivers, contact means a little less in this, in this moment right now because he's showing he can cover. At the end of the day, like you said before, we know he's good with contact. We know he can hit. We know he likes to tackle people. So the fact that he's looking pretty good right now in coverage, I think, is a pretty positive point. And like you said, OTAs is really all we have outside of a handful of snaps here and there. And the fact that he's looking this good so far, he's healthy. Hopefully, that train just keeps chugging along. But with that being said, on the other side of the ball, obviously the offense has been doing pretty well as well. As we all know, Frank Ragnow retired pretty recently. So still kind of an open wound for Lions fans. But on the bright side, it does sound like our interior offensive line is looking pretty good right now. Now, like I said, take that with a grain of salt. We don't have pads on. However, it does look like right now Tate Ratledge is going to be our starting center next year. Now, it is OTAs, so maybe they're just getting him more reps with the first team than Glasgow because they think he needs it. That's a very possible scenario. Trying to get him, just used to snapping the ball, used to making the calls, seeing what he needs to see, that kind of thing. So I could understand if they don't actually think he's going to be the starter, but they're giving him most of the starter reps right now. But right now, left guard is Mahogany, center is Ratledge, and right guard is Glasgow, and I think that's going to stick. I think that's probably going to be the day one starting lineup because I believe that the fact that they are putting so much into Ratledge playing center means they probably drafted him to do that, right? So I think this goes down to that's why we gave up so much for him because we knew, okay, we like this guy, he can play center, and Ragnow is going to retire. So I don't think it was a done deal that Ragnow retires by any means, but if Ragnow plays this year, Ratledge plays right guard, and then I think we still move him to center next year. So I think this was always the idea when we drafted him. So I would kind of be surprised if Glasgow starts there week one, unless some unforeseen thing happens, like when they put the pads on, he just can't fucking make a shotgun snap. If he can't snap the ball in shotgun, all right, then we might not play him. But other than that, I think he should be okay. Um, with that being said, though, there is a bit of a competition right now, kind of all over the place, though, because like we've talked about before on the show, we have Miles Frazier, we have Kingsley, we have the guy we just signed, Tristan Colon or Colon. I still don't know how to pronounce it. I need to figure that out. I hope it's Cologne personally for his sake, but I couldn't imagine the middle school jokes if his last name was actually in fact Colon. Now, with that being said, we do have a pretty deep, offensive line room in general, whether it be interior or tackle. So I feel pretty good about that, and it's nice to hear that we're having a lot of good competition, good looks. Everybody seems to be getting their job down, and they're figuring it out. So again, OTAs, no pads, but this is kind of what it's looking like right now. James, do you have anything to add?
No, unfortunately, you covered everything well, which is yay for you, but I can't add anything to it. So
All right. Well, with that being said, the next thing is Jameson Williams. Apparently, everybody is talking about it. He is going to take the next step. Now, I think we all thought to ourselves, JMO took the next step last season, right? I think, how do I phrase this? I think the Lions coaches always knew Jameson Williams was capable of being a 1,000-yard receiver, right? I think that's why they drafted him. They said, okay, this guy is capable of this. What I think they mean by taking the next step, I don't think they mean statistically really at all. I think they just mean like, for instance, from what I've heard, his hands look a lot better. He looks a lot better as a playmaker in general, like with the ball in his hands. Now, that's the thing with JMO. I've always wanted a little bit more out of him because obviously he's freakishly fast, but you don't really see that super shiftiness, like you do from a Jahmyr Gibbs or, maybe, or even a Tyreek Hill, that has that same type of speed, but just with the ball in his hands can be a menace. Like if JMO gets to that point, man, we are cooking with gasoline, baby. Like this ain't even no grease. This is gasoline because if JMO becomes a I'm call me crazy, okay, but when I hear JMO taking the next step, I think of Jamar Chase, that type of player, where it's like he can beat you over top, he can beat you intermediate, he can beat you with the ball in his hands, he can beat you without the ball in his hands, he can, you know what I mean? He can beat you on an end around, he can beat you on a screen, he can get you on a vertical or a comeback or whatever. He basically just has everything. So if that's the case, man, things might get scary, okay? And as a Lions fan, kind of a small aside, I was offered Amon-Ra St. Brown last week in a fantasy league, and I turned it down. You know why? I said because I think JMO is going to take a lot more of these targets because next year I don't see Amon-Ra being – he's still going to be our number one wide receiver, but I don't see it being one of those, where he has 120 catches or anything like that. I think Amon-Ra and JMO's stats will be a little bit more comparable next season. Now, do you have anything to add to that? I know JMO is your favorite Lion.
yeah, JMO is my favorite Lion. I've been following that closely, and he does look different. It's not just word of mouth. I know if you follow the Lions, I've seen more clips on YouTube. Follow their YouTube page, and they will post daily, just 2 or 3 minute highlight videos and stuff from practices. And it seems like more and more each day is more kind of featuring JMO. I don't know if he is being highlighted or if he's just making the better plays that are shown on the highlights. But either way, he is definitely a more prominent person in those highlight films. And as you said, I've seen him make some one-handed catches. I've seen him, unfortunately, to kind of contradict my last point, I've seen him kind of burn Rakestraw on a rep. But I mean, not to kind of contradict myself. There's a reason JMO was, a top 15 pick and Rakestraw was a second round pick. There's not a lot of good corners in the league that could cover JMO. He just had 1,000 yards for the first time last year, and John Morton, our new OC, said he's going to feature JMO a lot more, and he is very happy with having JMO in this offense and looking forward to seeing what he can do with him.
Yeah, and to your point, JMO doesn't even necessarily just look different as a on the field, like his routes are different or whatever. The dude looks fucking thicker. You know what I mean? He just looks thicker. And I don't know if maybe I'm looking too much into it, but his voice sounds deeper than it was before. When I hear him talk, and maybe that's just, part of the confidence thing. Maybe that's just, you know what I mean? Like he's a little bit more comfortable. But when I heard him talk on an interview, I think it was last week at OTAs or 2 weeks ago, I was like, dude, he just sounds different even. Like he's just like a total different guy. So hopefully that, carries over to his on-field play. And really, honestly, hopefully it carries over to his off-field more than on-field because I feel like JMO is that type of guy that could get distracted. You know what I'm saying? He could have a lot of distractions off the field. So hopefully he keeps doing what he's been doing with that and just all football all day, because if he does that, man, the sky is the absolute limit at this point. And then with that said, moving on, it does sound like, speaking of another absolute dog that we have on the Lions offense, Jahmyr Gibbs is apparently going to be playing a lot more receiver spots this year. And not only that, he will get a lot more different looks out of the backfield as a receiver as well, which I personally didn't understand why we didn't use him more in that way. Look, man, call me fucking crazy, okay? But look, when I think the Lions offense, here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking Amon-Ra, JMO at the outsides, right? And then you have Laporta at the Y, so like the wing tight end slot. And then you have Jahmyr Gibbs on the other side at the slot. David Montgomery in the backfield. Why don't we do that? I don't feel like we ever do that. Like, that would mean we would have all of our best offensive weapons on the field at the same time. And not only that, we could run an end around with JMO, run an end around with Jahmyr, or I'm sorry, not an end around, a jet sweep with Jahmyr. You know what I'm saying? That kind of stuff. Or fake the jet, fake the inside zone, throw a screen. It's like we could do so much crazy shit with that, and we just never do. So I'm hoping that means that this means Johnny Morton is like, all right, we're going to start doing that more. We need more of David Montgomery and Jahmyr on the field at the same time so we can kind of use them however we like. I also don't understand why we don't use more two back sets with both of them. I think that would be a great idea, because then the defense doesn't really know what's coming. You can hand it to either player. You can still pass it. Like, I just feel like there's potential that, I can't even believe I'm going to say this right now, but there's potential that our offense next year is more creative than it was with Ben Johnson in different ways, though. Like, Ben Johnson is creative in trick plays, right? Like, he's great at making trick plays, making the Penei Sewell catch or the JMO throw. Anyway, we won't talk too much about that, but I think Johnny Morton is a little bit more creative in just the small ways in the game, if that makes any sense. Like, okay, we're gonna get all these guys on the field so we can use them in all different ways. Whereas it didn't seem like Ben Johnson did that as much. So, with that being said, I am definitely looking forward to that, especially as a Gibbs fantasy manager, because he was already RB1 last year, and if this motherfucker gets 20 more catches next year, I mean, we might be looking at one of the best running back fantasy seasons ever. Okay. So now, with that being said, Laporta also has been looking very good, and he has looked like he is going to take the next step as well, just overall, which is kind of crazy because after his rookie year, it was like, how could this guy get much better, right? And then last year, he kind of dropped off statistically a little bit, but does sound like he is going to be taking the next step. Now, James, do you have anything on that before we move on?
The only thing I wanted to touch on with that is I don't know if I mean talking about Sam Laporta. He's a young player, and obviously he'll still develop. It's only going into year three for him. And I'm not saying you said this, but I know some people online were asking earlier in the offseason why he took a step back last year. And I don't per se think he took a step back. I think JMO, who had a career year, and Gibbs, who had a career year, just kind of took the ball away from him. There's only one ball to share for all of these guys. So just because his stats went down doesn't mean he was a worse player for us. But I agree with you. From what I've saw from the reports and whatnot, it does look like he will be a bigger focal point this year, along with JMO, as we just mentioned. So in terms of fantasy, I think you are right to kind of, I don't want to say avoid St. Brown, but maybe hesitate a little bit if the trade offer is too rich.
Yeah, and that's exactly why I passed, because it wasn't a bad offer. It was just, it wasn't a bad offer if I didn't think JMO was going to explode. And that's a great point with Laporta, because I do feel like they just didn't use him as much as they did his rookie year. Like, that's all it came down to. It's not that he was worse. He was oft injured last season on top of it. So there was a couple games where the week before, and I have a shit memory, okay? I coach football, so as soon as the Lions season is over, I am like, all right, wipe the brain, we're moving on. You know what I'm saying? Like, So I can't remember what week this was, but there was a week where I remember the announcers or Dan Campbell even saying Laporta's finally 100% healthy. We're excited for him to be here because he was dealing with a shoulder injury, I believe, for most of the season. And then they were like, he's healthy, he's ready to go. And then he had the best game of the year, the next game, and then for like 3 or 4 weeks in a row, he was old Sam Laporta again, and it seemed like everything was back to normal. So I almost feel like their usage was also partially due to his injury. So not necessarily because he wasn't as good, just circumstances change. So was it a shoulder injury?
I'm trying to find out now. The shoulder rings a bell for sure.
Okay.
I'm trying to see what week that was said, slash look up his stats and see what week he had that. Because I do remember him kind of, I hate to say lazily because it's just the stat version, but kind of just going with the flow, 2 catches, 20 yards, and then he just went off for like 5 catches, 100 yards, and like 2 touchdowns or something. I just,
Yeah.
like you said, I can't remember which week that was. And unfortunately, my internet is being insanely slow right now. It doesn't help that I probably have like 20 tabs open, but
Right.
um,
So let's see here. If we're looking at this last year's schedule, let's see, what week was it that he had a big game?
I have an article loading that says
Right.
Sam Laporta finally healthy, but I can't see what week it is yet.
So he had a pretty solid game week. I don't know what week it was, but against Houston, six 3 catches for 66 yards and a touchdown. But the game I'm thinking of was against Buffalo. He had 7 catches for 111 yards. And then
Yep.
the rest of the season, he had at least 4 catches in every game. In the last 2 weeks of the season, he had 6 and then 7. So again, kind of to our point, it seemed like he was just had nagging injuries all season, and that's kind of what kept him out. But now moving on to the not so positive stuff about OTAs. Okay, guys, I think it is time that we say, I know what we've said it many times on the show. I haven't, but other people on the show have said many times there is one pick that Brad Holmes' worst pick, and it's not close. And I'll tell you, that person was completely fucking wrong, okay? Because it's not Manu, right? It's Hendon Hooker. It's Hendon Hooker. It just is. The dude is bad. I don't know what else to say about it. Like, he's been bad for 3 seasons, and he's fucking 28 years old. He might even be 29. I don't fucking know. Like, we drafted this kid, right? And everybody kind of thought, well, shit, maybe we have our heir apparent to Jared Goff. And I thought to myself, I don't see it. I mean, he's a solid college quarterback, but he was older, and he was still, for an older guy, he was still pretty raw, right? And then, everybody was saying, well, without the ACL tear, he was a first round pick. Okay, no. That just wasn't going to happen. Okay, unfortunately, like, I like Hendon Hooker. I just don't think he has been. Well, actually, Broderick Martin and Hendon Hooker are probably tied, in my opinion, for the worst 2 picks because Broderick Martin just doesn't really play. So it's like hard to even gauge that. But point is, Hendon Hooker has not looked good again in OTAs. Last year, we dealt with the same thing. The year before that, we dealt with the same thing. I mean, I went to OTAs last year, and I think me and you talked about it, actually. I remember
Yep.
being like, holy shit, he looks bad. Like, it's not even just like, oh, we missed a throw here and there. It's like, what the fuck did he see when he threw that ball? Like, genuinely. And it's like, we're in year 3 of Hendon Hooker as our backup now, right? And he doesn't seem to really have gotten any better, right?
No.
And he's old already, right? And we just
Yep.
signed Kyle Allen, and he ain't looking too much better, guys. So I think it's time we start looking for a QB2. And I mean, like, we need one bad, because I'll tell you right fucking now, boys, we can lose 11 out of 11 defenders and still win games, apparently. we ain't losing Jared Goff and putting fucking Hendon Hooker or Kylan Allen in there and winning games like we did last year. That's just not happening, okay? So, like, if I were the Lions, I'm keeping a close eye on the Cleveland Browns and the Pittsburgh Steelers. And here's why. If Aaron Rodgers, right, is the obvious starter and it's not even close, I don't think this would happen, but there's a potential that Mason Rudolph might want out. I don't know. I could see that. Now, would he want to come to Detroit and be the backup? Who knows? Maybe they move on from him for money. Now, again, I doubt that happens. However, what's more likely is Cleveland. Okay, I would keep an eye on Cleveland's quarterback room. Here's why. Shedeur Sanders, okay? He could start for them next year, right? We have Dylan Gabriel. He could start for them next year, right? We also have Kenny Pickett, who could start for them next year. We also have Joe Flacco, right? One of them's got to be cut, boys. One of them. One of those 3-4 names I just mentioned has to be cut because they only keep 3 quarterbacks. I would prefer Joe Flacco. Yeah, right. I would prefer Flacco out of all those guys because he's the only one that I would go, if Goff goes down, we can still win a little bit. We can win a couple games with him. I mean, he showed it in Cleveland. He's not cooked, right? Now, I think Kenny Pickett is going to be the odd man out, though. I do believe they will end up cutting Kenny Pickett, and I would bring him in if I'm the Lions because if he's not as good as the other two, you just let him just leave the fucking building and you don't have to worry about it. However, there's a chance he's better than Kyle Allen and or he's better than Hendon Hooker. If he's better than both of them, he's our backup. Now, if he's better than Kyle, obviously Kyle goes and we keep Kenny. The point being, though, we need to look around, okay, and we need to find somebody who can actually play, right? Like a Jacoby Brissett. Obviously, he's not available, but somebody like that where if shit hits the fan, we have a backup quarterback we feel comfortable with. Because right now, it does not sound good for either of our guys. And then the last but not least for the Lions, there have been a lot of players that have missed a lot of OTAs due to injury. And it's OTAs. So the thing I'm thinking is how much of those injuries are even like real? You know what I mean? It's like these guys are probably just like, man, y'all can have it. My ankle's hurting or whatever. You know what I'm saying? It's like
I stubbed my toe this morning.
right. Like, I mean, I would do that shit. It's like, whatever, man. I'm just chilling. Like, I'll get some treatment and, stay and be at practice and watch and everything, so that way you're still in the loop. But makes sense for veterans, okay? Now,
Marshawn Lynch that.
right? Literally.
I'm just here so I won't get fined.
Right. And then now with that, before we move on, do you have anything to add for that one?
No, I'm just really looking forward to this season. It's around the corner. I know everyone once again keeps posting about, 90 however many days, but it's only 50 something until preseason. I think it's 52. Don't quote me on that, but I think it's like 52 days until preseason. Next month on the 31st. So
yeah. And we play in the first preseason game, so we'll be the first team or the first fan base. I think we play the Chargers or the Steelers.
Chargers.
Okay. So when we play the Chargers, there's going to be 2 fan bases that are pretty happy to see their team before everybody else gets to. And with that being said as well, we have – go ahead.
4 preseason games because of that too, not just 3.
Great point. So also on top of that, we have 2 joint practices as well. So with Miami and Houston. So we'll actually be able to get to see our team go full speed a little bit here pretty quick. So like I said, similar to what I've got going on, football season comes at you fast. And when it's here, man, it is just it's a avalanche basically. It's a snowball effect. It ain't stopping until that season's over. So it's gonna be a lot of fun. I always really, really love when football season comes back around, whether it be as a coach or a fan. So really excited to get into it as well. Now, with that being said, we will move on to our NBA portion of the show. It's going to be a quick-ish portion of the show. Obviously, Game 3 of the NBA Finals is tonight in Indiana. I almost went. I'm not going to lie to you. I almost went. Problem is, I'm poor. So, I couldn't. Now, unfortunately for me, tickets are like a fucking $1,000 just to get in the door. I just wish I lived closer to OKC because in OKC it was like $400, and I'm like, that might be a little bit more worth it. But like $950 to sit in nosebleeds in Indianapolis, I'll just watch it on TV. With that being said, though, they're not back. They're going to Indiana for the first time at 1-1. It's tied up. OKC won the last game pretty handedly. I will say I kind of expected that throughout the whole series. Now, call me crazy. I do think game one was a bit of a fluke, okay, because OKC was up the whole time and Indiana just came back. And I said it. I might even have said it on this show shortly after. I can't remember if we talked about this or not last week. But point being, no, we didn't because they didn't even play yet. So point being that Tyrese Halliburton hit that game-winning shot, right? Now, OKC is one of those teams that is up on, like, they beat Minnesota by 53 points in the first round and then beat them by 30 the next game, okay? This is a team that has been used to just blowing people out all season, right? Whether it be regular season or postseason. Denver was the only team that they really had any struggles with in the postseason at all, right? So they swept Memphis. Then they went to 7 games with Denver, and then they went to 6 games, I believe, with Minnesota. So didn't really have to deal with too much adversity. Now, the first game with with the Pacers, everybody kind of knew that the Pacers were a team that sticks around, right? They're a team that did it against Milwaukee, they did it against Cleveland, and now they did it against the Knicks, and now they're doing it against OKC. I think OKC got so used to just blowing people out that they're like, we're up by 15, we can just kind of coast. Can't do that against this Pacers team, and I think they figured that out, and that's why when it came to the second game, they put the foot on their necks and didn't even let them have a chance to come back. And I think that's what's going to keep happening. Call me crazy. I still think it's OKC in 5, man. I still do. Like, that first game, I think, was a fluke. And I think the Pacers could win another game. I could see in 6. I just don't see this going 7. Obviously, there's potential. But as long as Chet and J-Dub play like they played last game, I don't really see a way. Unless Tyrese Halliburton goes for 40 every game, then they have a chance, which he hasn't yet. So we'll see if that happens. Now, Game 3's tonight in Indiana. Hopefully OKC can pull that out because we need a chip, baby. Now, moving on to the Pistons specifically. As we all know, Kevin Durant has been a name thrown around a lot lately. Pistons are not even an option, okay? I saw a tweet today that was like, per my sources, the Pistons are trading Tobias Harris and Jared Ivey. Excuse me. They're trading Harris and Ivy and who was it?
I think Holland was in there.
Yeah, and a couple picks for Kevin Durant. Okay, first of all, it ain't gonna cost that much to get him. Okay, what's most likely going to happen though is that he's going to go to Houston or he's going to go to San Antonio. Minnesota has a chance, but it's even smaller because Houston has the 10th pick and some young guys that they could send over there, and so does San Antonio. So, Pistons fans, point being, it ain't fucking happening. I don't want it to happen because we're not ready for Kevin Durant anyway. If we trade, let's say, Tobias Harris and Ivy and I don't know, somebody like another like oh damn it, Fontecchio. If we traded him as well, that's not a bad package if you add a first rounder. But you only get Kevin Durant for 1 year as of right now, and I'm not so sure he'd like to re-sign in Detroit. Okay. Now, also, you're taking away Tobias Harris and Ivy and Fontecchio and first round picks for a guy that, look, man, maybe I have some bias.
37?
Yeah, he's 30. He's 37 as well, and maybe I have some bias here, but because I'm an OKC fan, ever since he left OKC, Kevin Durant has done basically nothing outside of the 2 or the 3 years he was in Golden State. Like, he went to Golden State, won his 2 championships, was like, hey, we're the fucking best, then left, went to Brooklyn, fucking got shipped out of there in a couple months, went to Where did he go after that? I think it might have been the Suns that he got traded to from Brooklyn, but went to Phoenix. They didn't even make the fucking playoffs. Barely done shit. Like, think about it this way, guys. Devin Booker took the Suns to the finals against the Milwaukee Bucks. The next season, they go trade for Kevin Durant, and they barely even win a playoff game. I'm just saying I love Kevin Durant as a basketball player. He's a scorer. I'm just not so sure he's the guy that you go for the Pistons. I'm not so sure he's the guy that you go he'll get us over the top. Okay. Could he? Yes. I'm just not sold. Now, for San Antonio or Houston, it makes a lot more sense because they're a lot better built right now. I also think San Antonio, he fits better there. If you slot him into that power forward spot, they really don't have to give up too much. Devin Vassell and maybe Sohan and the 14th pick. That's really not that much for a guy like Kevin Durant. You're not losing too much on your rotation. I think that's a good move for everyone involved. Phoenix gets good young players, picks. They can kind of rebuild with Devin Booker. And the Spurs, if they get Kevin Durant, I think are not title favorites, but they're definitely contenders next year. But that's why I would personally stay away from KD if I were the Pistons. Now, one more thing about the Pistons this offseason, there has been potential or talks of them going after one of the Minnesota Timberwolves big men. Okay. And I'm a big fan of this because now it depends on the money, of course. Naz Reid, I saw a report the other day on Twitter that he's going to get $60 million a year. If he gets that, no, I would barely give him 30 personally. I don't even know if I'd give him 30. I'd look to give him like 22 because I just feel like he's not a real needle mover necessarily. Like he's a good player, but he's not a guy you're going to bring in and he's going to be an all-star for us next year, Like I just don't see us winning a chip because of him. Now, the guy who intrigues me more though is Julius Randle, okay? And here's why. Julius Randle, I think, fits this team really, really well because he can shoot, he can handle the ball, he's a good rebounder, he's a good defender on the ball, off the ball, perimeter, in the paint, all of it. I think he is better than Naz Reid at the things we need right now. And if that $60 million number is true, I think you can get Julius Randle for 30 to 40. Okay, and I think that would make a lot more sense. Now I still don't know if I'd want to, give him a 4-year deal. I'd probably give him a 2-year, maybe 3, just because of his age and everything like that. But just something to keep in mind, Pistons fans. I think Julius Randle would be a pretty good fit for us in Detroit, and I think he fits what we want, right? Because this offseason he was known, or this playoffs, he was known as the Luka stopper because his perimeter defense is so good as a big man. So I think he fits pretty well in this group. So with that being said, that is all we have for our NBA talk as of today. So James, we will move on now to our Tigers update for this week. The floor is yours.
I'm gonna say, hey, hey, baseball town, because these Tigers are hot. They once again are coming off a win. They are 6-4 their last 10 games, so slightly worse than last week when we were 7-3 coming off the 10 games. But thankfully, pretty much every team in the division has gotten worse over the last week. We are now currently sitting on a very comfortable 8-game lead over second place, the Minnesota Twins. And the Cleveland Guardians, who were second when we played them last week to 10 days ago, might be a little over a week now. They were only like 4 games out. They are now 9 games back, and now they're even in third behind the Twins. So they're even further away. The cockiness in me wants to call them an afterthought, but the season is still so many games long. And there's still a lot of baseball left, but everything right now is going smooth. There's a ton of talking points between another dominant Skubal victory. Torkelson has found his power. He started out hot, kind of cooled off a little bit. He's back to being hot. He's got 2 home runs in the last 5 games, one just yesterday. They are now 20 games total over 500. They are 64-44 on the season. So we are finally under the 60 game to go mark, thankfully. But this is the first time that they have been 20 games over 500 at any point in the season since 2013. So it is going back 12 years since we have been this amount of games over 500. And that particular season, we ended up with 93 wins. So I would be more than fine with running that back. Um, and then the only other juicy tidbit besides trying to stretch things out, because I know we started late and you got a deadline and you got other things to do here, is Scott Harris, the president of the Tigers, came out on, I think it was 97.1. I'm just going to say an interview, but I think it was not 97.1, and said that the Tigers will be buyers at the trade deadline this year. And on one hand, that is kind of like a no duh statement just because we're the best team in baseball right now. So let's go in and let's try to win this damn thing. Like, why wouldn't we be buyers? We're not going to sell when we're the best team in baseball. However, as I've said in previous podcasts, we are the best team in baseball as is. And of course, other teams are going to spy to try to catch us and whatnot. But I would only make a move, and stop me if you've heard this before, at the right price. Because we have some very valuable prospects that could get us quite a few, I would even say game-changing players because Max Clark, Bryce Rayner, McGonigal, these guys are of note if you're in the know of the baseball world. These guys are making waves, although Rayner is hurt and unfortunately out for season, but he was having an immaculate season prior to that. But the other two guys are healthy, and Scott Harris flat said that he doesn't believe in untouchable prospects. To an extent, I understand that just because everyone has their price. If you want to go ahead and trade me Ohtani, okay, sure, you can have our top prospect. Obviously, that's not going to happen, but everyone does have their price. I saw a few people freak out and be like, oh shit, are we going to trade away one of our best prospects for a guy that may or may not help the team win it this year and kind of go all in terms of trading a high package of prospects, but for a middle tier baseball player. And to that, I just have to say, you just have to trust this front office. I know prior regimes we couldn't and we sucked, but these are the guys that got us to where we are. These are kind of like the Brad Holmes of the baseball world, and they're not going to make a move if it's going to make us much worse. In that same interview, he did add the caveat, it doesn't make much sense to trade a guy who we feel like could help us for the next 10 years for someone that can help us only this year. So we'll see what kind of moves, if any, they make. It's way too far out. I've seen some names linked to the Tigers, like, oh, they could target this guy, but it's like the best closer in baseball or someone that's on the Dodgers or Yankees who are also going to be in the playoffs. So they're not going to trade away their top end guys to their competitor who's just going to beat them. So let's keep the mock trade simulators in perspective. But right now, I don't think we obviously right now we won't make a move. Once we get to the deadline, it's one of those things where you won't hear too much about it. And then the last 2 days of the deadline, there'll be like 20 moves throughout the league. But right now, we are just coasting and constantly winning more games than we lose. And it's once again just a good time to be in Tigerstown. And that has a better ring to it. I probably heard that somewhere else. I did not claim that. And it's just a good time to be a Tigers fan right now.
Yeah, and that's very true. It's a good time to be a Detroit sports fan, kind of in general right now. I know the Red Wings, they're not the greatest team in terms of win-loss, but however, I think we can all kind of agree that they could be a lot worse, right? They could suck,
Yeah.
actually. So, like, at least we can say that right now in Detroit, no teams suck, right? Also, speaking of that, another team that is pretty new to Detroit is doing their damn thing as well. because the Michigan Panthers, who we haven't really talked about too much on the show, are in the championship right now, in the UFL championship. So huge, huge year for, Detroit sports in general. Really, really happy to see them doing well as well. So like you said, it's a great time to be a Tigers fan. It's a great time to be a Lions fan. It's a great time to be a Pistons fan. It's a great time to be, I'm going to say this tentatively, a Red Wings fan. And it's a great time to be a Panthers fan. I will say, as the years just kind of keep going for me, it is very nice to finally be able to say the Lions are good. Like, I'm sure as you know, James, I'm sure as everyone watching knows, and I'm sure Pistons fans feel the same way. It is like, oh my God, I'm so fucking over walking around with a Lions shirt on and someone says, "Damn man, sorry." Oh, that must suck. And I'm like, dude, what the fuck? I'm just trying to get a hot dog, man. Can you not harass me over my shirt? Like, now everywhere I go, people are like, "Go Lions! Go Lions!" And it's like, yeah, that's what we're looking for. So, with that being said, that is all we have for today. A bit of a quicker show, but we will keep you guys updated as things go. And as always, we appreciate our sponsors for sponsoring us, Fanatics and Try the World. If you don't know, Fanatics is, you can literally get any sports, anything you want there. Link will be in the description. Try the World is a very cool business that you can basically just order a bunch of snacks from a bunch of different countries and try the world that way. So links will be in the description. You click the link and you buy anything within a week. It will help us out a little bit, and we would greatly appreciate that. So with that being said, we appreciate you guys for watching. As always, you can find James at Gullet_James. You can find me at JSoSweet, and you can find us at MI Sports Media and www.misportsmedia.com. With that being said, we will see you next week.